Hello everyone, my name is Javra Mukti and I will be the teaching assistant for the Large Language Models and Machine Learning for Unstructured Data seminar organized by IESE and Fundación Ramón Areces. In this video, I will guide you through the computational setup we will use throughout the seminar. I will start by introducing you to GitHub and its code sharing functionality. I will then introduce you to Jupyter Notebooks and how to execute them using Google Colab. This will be the main environment in which we will run all the Python code in the seminar. Code, collaborate with multiple people, and do version control. GitHub will be our main platform for sharing the code and slides we will use in the seminar. To take full advantage of GitHub, you will need an account. In case you don't yet have one, you can just create it by going to github.com and then go to the sign up page. I already have an account, so I will proceed to sign in with my details so that I can show you the basics of the platform. GitHub's building blocks are called repositories. Think of them as projects that individuals or organizations own where they can have all of their code. These repositories can be private or public, and they can have one or multiple contributors. Let's search for a public repository so that we get a better idea of what repositories are and how they look like. We can do that by simply going to the search bar on top over here. And just for the sake of experimentation, let's search for repositories related to GPT. After our search, we'll see that each one of these boxes represents a different repository from a different owner. And we'll explore one of those, the second one, the AutoGPT. Just by opening the repository, we can already see that it is nothing more than a combination of folders and individual files. And these are all usually accompanied by a description of the project called a README file, where you can find a more detailed description of what the project is intended to do. But if we come back to files and folders, we can see that one can navigate folders as in any operating system. So we can go to scripts, for instance, and then we can also navigate individual files. These are, for instance, Python files that we can open and inspect in detail through GitHub. Now we're going to see some additional features of GitHub by looking at a very simple repository we have prepared for these videos. We're going to go to that repository by using the URL. I'll make sure I put it on the screen, but you can already see the URL on the search bar. And as you can see, the repository is quite simple, just one folder and a simple README file. Closer to the start of the seminar, you will receive an invitation granting you access to another repository like this one, but with the full code that we will use in the seminar. The idea of this video is just to give you all the basics for you to interact fluidly with both of these repositories. Okay, so what can we do with this repository? If we simply wanted to download all of the content of the repository, we could do that by going to the code button, and then we would have three options. The easiest one would be just to download everything as a zip file. You can do that in this download zip option. The second one would be to use a GitHub application, a desktop application of GitHub, to do the download process. And the third one, a more involved one, would require us using the terminal and coding a little bit to get the GitHub repository using the link that you can code here. But we will not do this. We will not download to our local machine the repository. Instead, we would want to use one of GitHub's most important features, which is fork. And fork in GitHub's language is just a way of saying that you are going to make a copy of this repository under your own user. And we do that just by clicking on the fork button here. When we click on the fork button, we will be able to set a bunch of options for the copy of the repository we're going to make. And you can see that the owner is going to be me. It's Java Mundi, not the unstructured data organization, and you can actually change the name of the repository if you wish, and then you can just create the fork by clicking this create fork option. And you'll see now that this will take just a moment, and then I'll have a copy under my user of this repository. I will see as well here that it is a fork from a main repository, and this can take me back to that main repository. Now that we have forked the main repository into our own user, we can actually focus on the content of this repository. You'll see that there is only one folder, which is called notebooks. We're going to open that, and you'll see that it has a couple of files that have an extension IPYNB. This is the extension for Jupyter Notebooks, and let me show you. Jupyter Notebooks are a great way of combining text with code and its output, and they are very useful pedagogically. Jupyter Notebooks can run multiple programming languages, but we will use them running Python. To execute these notebooks, we will rely on a platform called Google Colab. Google Colab allows people to run their notebooks on cloud resources hosted by Google without having to worry at all about their own local setup. This will allow us to avoid technical inconveniences when installing software locally, so that we can focus on the methods and their implementations and not on time-consuming configuration problems. Okay, so now we can go back to our repository, and now we understand what it means for these two files to be Jupyter Notebooks. And if we go to the intro notebook, we will see that not only it is a Jupyter notebook, but it has this open in Colab button that all of our notebooks will have, and that they allow to easily open this notebook automatically in Google Colab. So let's take a look at that. We just wait a moment, and we can see that the same notebook that we were previously seeing within our repository, it is now in Google Colab, which means that we can run the code it has. So let's just click on this run cell button. We have to accept to authorize Google to run it, and we'll see we have output, so we can actually run our Python code now. Each one of the blocks you see here is called a cell, and cells can be of two types. There are code cells, such as this one, that they have a button over here where when you click on it, you'll just execute the code here and produce this output. And there are text cells, right? Text cells such as this one on top, where if you double click on them, you'll see the raw text underlying them, and you can actually go and add anything you want. So I'll add topics for discussion, since this small list I have here will be the closing remarks I'll make for this video. Let me start by highlighting some of the advantages and limitations of this Jupyter Notebook and Google Colab setup. So as I've already said, the main advantage of using Google Colab is that we don't need to do any local installation in our machines. So no need to install Python, no need to install any libraries. Everything happens on the cloud and with access to very good hardware. So we can see here, for example, that we're currently using 12 gigabytes of RAM. So we have access to 12 gigabytes of RAM, and we have access to a disk that's over 100 gigabytes. So we have access to pretty decent hardware from Google. And in addition to this, we can also get access to GPUs, which are quite important when we run a very large models, especially in the context of text data. So those are the main advantages. On the limitations, if notebooks are left inactive for a long time, Google will kill the session and you will lose whatever you have in memory. So be careful about that. Inactivity is not really allowed in this setting. And any change that you do here is not saved anywhere. So you will need to download the notebooks. I'll show you in a bit how to do that. Now, regarding the navigation panel, I will only show you that in addition to the basic options on the top, you have some additional options on the left panel, one of which is this folder icon, where you can drag and drop data or files, and you will also see any file that you save in your session. So then you can click on it, and then if you click again, it would just go back. And then finally, for downloading notebooks, you just need to go to File right here, and you have multiple options. You can actually save a copy in your Google Drive account. You can save a copy in GitHub. But if you want to go the easy way, you can just download the file over here. Whatever you prefer to do, please remember to always save a copy of the notebook you're working on, because all changes will be deleted after you close your current collab session.